Chief, can you hear me? Just checking to see if any of the board members can hear me.
Yes, I can hear you.
Oh,
Tim?
I was talking to myself.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, perfect. Well, there is a full board at this time, so once Chair O'Connell is ready to start, the meeting can begin.
Hey, Pat, are you able to hear us?
I don't think he can hear us.
Yeah, I don't think so either. Let's see, I'll try to text him real quick.
For those members of the public joining us this afternoon, I appreciate your patience. And once we deal with our audio issue, we'll begin the meeting shortly.
Pat just contacted me. He can't hear anyone and he is not muted.
He's muted now.
Yeah, he's muted now, but I'm gonna ask him if he can log back in.
Hi, can you hear me now?
Yep.
Yes.
Loud and
Okay.
Clear.
Pat, we have the full board at present, so.
Okay. With a full board present, I'll make a call to order at 5:04. Can we have a pledge of allegiance?
Okay.
Okay, I pledge allegiance to the United States
Of the United States,
and to the republic
the
for
Republic,
which it stands, one nation, with liberty and justice for all. I would like to have a moment of silence, again, on behalf of the victims of Ukraine and of violence in the United States. Thank you. Nate, can you proceed with roll call?
Director O'Connell,
Present.
Director Dodds,
Present.
Director Van Ness,
Present.
Director Meyer,
Present.
Director Landon,
Here.
all members are present.
Thank you. Joe, could you provide a quick overview of the virtual meeting process?
Yes, sir. Good afternoon, board members. As part of our ongoing collaboration between the district and LAFCO, LAFCO is helping with the virtual meeting process, and we're using Zoom webinar. Under this platform, the board and staff have complete control over their webcams and microphones. For members of the public, their microphones and webcams have been disabled, but they still have an opportunity to view and see the entire meeting. They also have an opportunity to address the board on any agenda items. Once they're acknowledged by staff and the chair, they'll have up to 3 minutes to address the commission on any agenda item. I will let them know when they have 1 minute left, and I'll let them know when their time is up. And for any agenda item that requires board action, your chief will do a roll call vote. And with that, Board Member O'Connell, that concludes a quick overview of the virtual meeting process.
Has there been any request to amend the current agenda?
I do not have any.
Okay, so there are no agenda amendments. We'll move on to oral communication.
I have received none.
Okay, we'll move on to the next action item. There is one item that requires discussion and potential action, and that is the benefit assessment study. And Nate, can you give us a presentation on this item?
We 2 months ago, we sent out a RFP for a benefit assessment to determine what it would take to do a tax measure to increase the funds to support and staff the station with 2 firefighters around the clock. We did receive only one. We had it came in about close to the budget, and I recommend, and Mr. Serrano recommend, that we move forward with this with SCI Consulting.
Okay. Has staff received any written comments or requests to address the board on this item only?
I have not received anything.
Okay, I have not received anything.
I did, myself and Mr. Serrano had a meeting with SCI Consulting last week, or the beginning of this week, and I believe Director Van Ness had a couple of questions that I think we can answer. Let's see, Director Van Ness was curious on the time it takes before we get any kind of numbers back. And they said they would have a preliminary number to us within 4 weeks. So if we started, whenever we agree to this contract, 4 weeks from then, we will have a preliminary number. Also, it would take 3 to 4 months for the final numbers. But in your packet, we gave you kind of a rundown of a schedule that they are proposing. Attachment B is what they're planning on. And there's a sample on attachment A of, I think it's A, or it's part of attachment B. When they did a similar benefit assessment for North County Fire District. So that gives a comparison to what the timetable it will be for us as well. Are there any questions on that?
Speak.
Yeah, but I was hoping, what I really wanted to hear is what the ad hoc committee has discussed so far about the anticipated cost of this measure, which we've just been getting generalization and not really much detail of what ad hoc committees been talking about. So I would like to hear a little more detail on that.
Joe, can you address the issue about discussions about what has gone on in the ad hoc committee?
Absolutely. Thank you, Board Chair O'Connell. I will note that the three parties, meaning the Branson 40 Fire, Scotts Valley Fire, and LAFCO, have been working closely on developing a plan in regards to this reorganization or this merger, whatever you want to call it. We're working together on finding the best route to complete this successfully. And based on those discussions and hearing from residents, is the main concern is what's going to happen with the fire station. So the three parties, Branson 40 Fire, Scotts Valley Fire, and LAFCO, determined that the only way we can really know how much it will cost to fund the operations of the Branson 40 Fire Station is to have an outside consultant do the numbers. There's been discussions of it might cost $1,000 per parcel to fund the fire station, but that's just us trying to guesstimate. In order for us to really provide the residents accurate information, we need an outside third party to really do the analysis and give us a defined number. And then once we have that number in place, SEI can also develop a benefit measure that the residents themselves would vote on. And they could determine if they want to pay the benefit assessment to keep the fire station in operation. So that's what the Joint Ad Hoc Committee has discussed in regards to this benefit assessment measure. And the only way for us to give the residents an opportunity to vote on it is to do the analysis. And the analysis shouldn't be done by Scotts Valley Fire or Branson 40 or LAFCO, because we don't want it to be perceived as biased. That's why we need an outside consultant to do it. And the only way to do that is to hire SCI consulting who has the experience to do so. And that's what's being proposed today. And that's what's been discussed by the joint ad hoc group. I will note that the group has also discussed if this benefit assessment study doesn't happen, or if the benefit assessment measure fails, the reorganization will still continue. But this is a main component that the Branson 40 Fire has indicated as a top priority, and so have the residents about the future of the fire station. So that's why we are discussing this at this point. That way we can include this in the timeline for the reorganization process.
Okay, thank you, Joe. I'd like to open the floor to public comment. Is there any public comment?
Chair, we have three. I'm going to go in the order that I saw the hands raised. So I believe this is Miss Becky Steinbrenner. Miss Becky, I'm asking you to unmute yourself.
Thank you. This is Becky Steinbrenner. I tried to speak, to get access to speak during public comment, but was not recognized. There are no instructions at all for people on the phone, the codes to be recognized or to get unmuted. So that's a problem for me. I took a guess with *9 because I participate in these meetings, but there are no instructions, and I didn't hear them discussed at the beginning of the meeting. What I want to say is I would like to have an opportunity after this closes to speak publicly on items not on the agenda. But regarding this action, I find that I agree that there needs to be a feasibility study done that really lays out the numbers per parcel, and that it's clear that this would be a weighted vote. So those with larger parcels or well, that would be determined in the feasibility study, but it will not be a one parcel, one vote matter. I don't think that will be, and that is based on my experience having gone through the CSA 48 special benefit assessment procedure, which this same SCI consultant group presided over. Um, if there is going to be a benefit assessment and charges accordingly, it needs to be very clear the criteria for those benefits and how those charges are assessed accordingly. That was missing and kept changing throughout the balloting process. I agree that this study needs to be done so that people have clear information, but the information needs to be accurate, and that was not true in the SCI work that was done with the CSA 48 about special benefit assessment. You also need to look at if any of the parcels that could be affected are in the state responsibility area, because if they are, it is against the law. A special benefit assessment fee for fire suppression. I think it's a little bit intimidating to say in the alternatives that your station would close, the Branson 40 station would close, and the community will not have an opportunity to vote on the future of the Branson 40 station. That's somewhat of a threat, because that fire station means a lot to the community, and everyone agrees that it should stay open. But the alternative seems like a threat with a big stick. So that's all I have to say for now. I just want your community to know very clearly and accurately what is going to happen if this vote is brought to them. Thank you.
Ms. Maggie. Okay, Chair O'Connell, I'm gonna now ask Ms. Danita Adams to unmute herself.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Joe. Before I ask my question, I just want to respond to the previous caller, Becky. Her statement that everyone in Branson 40 wants this station to stay open. That is far from the truth. I don't know who's on the advisory committee. Is it just people on Branson 40 Drive? But you get out into the outer limits of the district and you're going to find a completely different perspective. So that aside, my question is, Nate, you said that you asked the engineering SCI group to determine what would be the costs for manning the station with 2 firefighters. My question is, and is it still, like Joe said, we would continue to merge with Scotts Valley and they have paramedics, or is it this study, how much money is it going to cost to keep Branson 40 operating on its own? And if the latter is true, have you factored in the cost for paramedics? So that's my concern, and I want to make sure that SCI has those kinds of specifics.
Thank you for the question. We are planning the merger will happen. The SCI is looking to see what it would cost to keep the station open with Scotts Valley's wages and a paramedic here. So a captain and a fire engineer paramedic.
Thank you. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. You're welcome.
And just to add what Chief Lackey just mentioned, Scotts Valley Fire has also indicated that they can provide services with their existing fire stations to the Branson 40 community and have done so in many instances in the past, and they have paramedics. So there is an incentive for this reorganization that the Branson Ford community will not have paramedic services as part of this reorganization. But you're absolutely right, Ms. Adams. This reorganization is moving forward. And the question is, what's going to happen to the fire station? And Chief O'Connell or Chair O'Connell also note that we're not saying that the fire station is going to be closed up and put a sign where it's just for sale or anything like that. We're just saying is if this benefit assessment measure doesn't pass or isn't considered, then what we have to look at alternatives to the fire station. Are we going to convert it to a storage facility? There's going to be alternatives in place. It's not going to just be boarded up. But the main thing is what we've heard is, how is it going to stay in operation? Can it be in operation? And the question is, how much is it going to cost? So it comes back to this study. But in LAFCO's point of view is we're going to look at alternatives in the event that this assessment doesn't move forward for whatever reason. And Chair, we have one more request from Ms. Marilyn. So Ms. Marilyn, I'm going to ask you to unmute yourself.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Serrano. I'd just like to reiterate what has already been said and take issue with a little bit. This isn't a threat. It's just a reality. If we don't have independent, verifiable numbers that the district can assess and consider before they vote, then the station closes because we simply need those independent numbers. It's not a threat. It's just a reality. The district needs to see an independent assessment. That's about it. Thank you.
Thank you, Marilyn. We'll close public comments now. Now we'll open it up to board discussion. Who wants to start?
I'd like to start.
Okay.
This is Director Landon. Okay, so everybody knows that I'm arguing in counter of this whole process because I don't feel as though it's been transparent enough. I feel like it's being pushed. I feel that it's early. It's too soon. This kicks the ball off. This lets the horse out of the barn. Let's just say that. And then once the horse is gone, I feel as though, put that dog in the barn. I feel as though it's just too fast. And there's a lot of facts that haven't been talking about flyers, write-ups. I actually was looking at the benefit assessment information with the state, and you have to put flyers out 45 days before any hearing. I know you had a schedule there in your notes in the agenda, which is a little hard to follow, and I'm kind of curious. My first question is what is SCI's involvement in that schedule? Now, if you could just, pin that question, you guys. I'll go through my stuff as fast as I can. The reason I'm arguing basically against this process is because it's just being pushed. It's too fast on everybody, and I don't think enough information's out there to every resident. From a standpoint of scare tactics or threats, I will say
Did we lose Director Landon?
I don't hear him anymore.
I don't hear him nearly. Okay. We'll see if he comes back on. Can
I ask, didn't we last time we went for a tax measure, didn't we send out a preliminary letter to the residents to see what their feelings were on it before we spent a bunch of money on such thing?
So Kurt, yes, we did send flyers out, but this part of this presentation or this part of the study really has to do with finding information out that we can send out to the public. I mean, there's a lot of stuff we don't know yet. And this feasibility study is really going to look at all talking about next month or anything. We're talking about all the way into May or June of next month. So there's going to be plenty of time for them to complete their report and then start on the ballot in informational stuff in February, March, April. So we have time to do that. What we really need is to have a good study of all of the details. I mean, they're going to look at a lot of things. There's, for example, senior exemptions. Should there be senior exemptions that have on the proceedings and cost studies? So, but all of this information needs to come from a good, strong source, and I believe SCI is a good, strong source. They've done a lot of stuff, including Happy Valley Conference Center, or not Happy Valley, Happy Valley Grade School. They did an assessment for them, as well as several other districts in our county. So they're well aware of our county, well aware of the situations here. And but what we need to do is vote to proceed with this study. If we don't vote or don't proceed with the study, then that does put this whole process in risk. And by a board member deciding that, I'm going to vote against this and things are just going to run as they will, it puts the ability for us to have an election within our district with the people voting who live in our district to determine what the future of the fire district should be. It's not the fire district, but the joint fire districts. So this, we have to have these numbers. We need to have responsible fiscal inquiries and reports. All of this,
Meanwhile, we got $50,000 on this study, and we still don't know if we're gonna have any any guarantee that the residents are going to be approve of it.
well, we need to spend the money to have the information to put out so that people can make a good choice or a reasonable choice. Have the information there available to make a choice. If we cancel this process, they will not have a choice. And that's what we need to do is to start this process, get it going. There'll be plenty of time for community involvement, but everyone will have their ability to make a choice, yes or no. What are we going to do? It's not up to a board member to decide that for everyone. It's up to the district to decide it. And that's why,
I'm back.
okay, Dick, you able to hear anything I just said?
Something about one board member making a decision. I thought we all vote. That's how it works, right?
No, we all vote, but
Yeah.
as
So-
I'm a single board member, I'm looking at this and I'm telling you, this is something that needs to be voted on. It needs to start the process. But what we need to do is get all this information. We've got, the balloting isn't going to be until March or April of next year. So there's plenty of time for people to have input and say in how this stuff goes. But we need to have that information so we can proceed and put it to the voters of the district and not shut down the process right now, which is what voting against this would do.
Can I speak now?
Go ahead.
All right. I appreciate Joe mentioned that it could be $1,000. I will make a note that that additional tax is only on Happy Valley residents. It should be recorded that way. The Scotts Valley residents pay zero for their tax over the hill here. Now, I did want to reiterate that the last interim chief estimated that 80% of the coverage in our Happy Valley would be within 5 minutes from Scotts Valley. I also want to say that the paramedics are right behind. No matter where we go, if they're needed, there's a common call to every other station. Either they'll come from Central or Scotts Valley. So I just wanted to continue and talk about some other things that I don't think it's been introduced to the public, and it's important. We're going too fast. The Scotts Valley staff is significantly costlier than our present staff right now, and this I don't know. This will come out if this vote is successful. Obviously, I think it's a waste of money, $50,000 for this at this time. The idea that Scotts Valley is going to man that station in perpetuity and keep the funds separate, as Joe had indicated earlier in our last meeting, I don't really swallow. The idea that also I want to make a point that the drive time for Scotts Valley for their furthest part of their residency, their current resident parcel, is 20 minutes. That's my information. And right now, that's approximately the furthest drive for Scotts Valley for Happy Valley, the furthest Happy Valley resident. Now you guys back to me. Let me just finish. I'll go as fast as I can, but I think it's important. These kind of things are noted. So what are some, just looking at my notes here, excuse me. There's some questions such as, are there going to be any senior home owner exemptions? That's never been brought up. Number two, are there any other small communities within California paying upwards of, I'm going to say 1,700? Because when you add in the Scotts Valley costs, which is much higher than Branson 40 staffing costs, I'm going to say this company, SCI, the only one, and the one that doesn't have a great track record with the public, as Becky was talking about, is going to come up with. So that's my other question. You can pin that too. What's the percentage of Happy Valley residents that are retired on fixed incomes? What are considerations for the current inflation metrics, which mostly affect these retired people in Happy Valley and their fixed incomes? And most likely that inflation rate is going to rise. That's the current predictions. Excuse me, I have to plug my computer in. My battery's low. All right. I have a few more points. Can you hear me okay?
Yep.
Okay. All right, I said Scotts Valley has no current fire tax fee. What is the current number of Scotts Valley parcels? Previously, I talked that if we wanted to keep that station open, man, with Scotts Valley Power, with this exorbitant tax just on Happy Valley, I think that's very unfair. I think it should be spread between the two communities. That station will also provide a lot of services to Scotts Valley residents, and they pay nothing. Now, Becky was talking about the special tax, and I got this right from California taxdata.com. It's a copy of a state document. The ballots are this is a quote, ballots are weighted according to proportional financial obligation of the affected property. This means not one vote or one citizen. That's me. I'm saying that. As most other voting, it's not like most other voting, and it's a 50% in passage threshold. What are the unintended consequences of a special benefit tax? Prop 13 retired owners could be gravely impacted. Could they be assessed well above their current managed property so that their fire tax would be that much more? We don't know. Also, in retrospect, mostly newer property owners will carry the most influence on this final vote because their assessed values are higher. Additional fire tax is configured by existing. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
We can hear you, Dick.
Seems like we've lost him again.
Joe, Mr. Serrano has his hand up until we get Dick back again, I guess, maybe.
Okay. Well,
Chair O'Connell, do you mind if I provide some comments as we wait for Board Member Landon to come back?
yeah, no, I think that would be good. I was ready to suggest that myself.
I was just clarifications that, again, Scotts Valley Fire can provide services adequately to Branson 40 community with or without the Branson 40 fire station. And if this study doesn't move forward or there's no benefit assessment and the fire station is no longer operating, Branson 40 Fire will be providing services through their existing fire stations at no additional cost to the residents. Again, we're just talking about if the residents want that Branson 40 Fire Station to continue to be operating with 2 people on duty that have paramedic skills, it's going to cost additional funds. If they decide not to do it, or if the board doesn't want to move forward with the study, then Scotts Valley Fire will provide services through their fire stations at no additional cost to the residents. So I just want to make that clear. Secondly, the fact of, well, it's fine because, you know, we'll get paramedic services right behind from Central or Scotts Valley Fire. That's not how special districts work, relying on other districts to do their services. If a water district runs out of water, they get dissolved. They can't just say, oh, I'm just going to borrow water from our neighboring water. That doesn't work that way. So we got to make sure that this district is in existence for a reason. And we've, based on LAFCO's analysis, Branson 40 Fire is struggling with operations and governance. The district doesn't have staff. That's the reality. We have 3 full-time firefighters. You did a nationwide search for a fire chief and you could not find one because your budget's low compared to other fire districts. It's difficult to do that. That's why you have an interim temporary fire chief that's within your organization. So there's no admin stand to help you. So if for some reason this study doesn't happen, we have to really move forward with this reorganization because Branson 40 Fire cannot operate the way it is. You know, you may be saving $50,000, but the district itself is going to close. And so we have to do the best thing we can to make sure that the residents have the voice on the fire station and have input and accurate data as we move forward with this reorganization. I would argue that since the district has coordinated with LAFCO, there has been more transparency than ever before because now LAFCO's making sure that the district is following the Brown Act, that it's providing staff reports, that it's providing agenda, that's posting it accurately. That this is not a rush job. We've been discussing this since last July. So this is something that's an issue that needs to be addressed. We've been doing this transparently and we need to make a decision now if the district wants to pay for a study. And if the answer is no, then we're going to continue working with the reorganization, but we have to make a decision. And with that, I'll leave that my comments. Thank you, Chair.
This is Becky Steinbruner. I have to tell you that the website links are broken for today's meeting, and your meeting agenda and documents were not available to the public. The only reason I was able to join is because Mr. Serrano sent me the direct link. Your website is broken. The documentation and notification for this meeting are not available and would violate the Brown Act if you take action on this matter now. I forgot to say that during my minute, but thank you.
Becky, I was able to get on through the website. All the information was there. I think that you might not have been able to locate it easy, but it is there. And if you just followed the links, you would get to it. So the information was on it. All of the
Chair,
board members. Go ahead.
Chair, I was just going to mention that the agenda and agenda packet were posted on Tuesday, well within the 24-hour requirement under the Brown Act. And I've got confirmation from not only the board members and staff, but other members of the public that they were able to access the agenda packet. So I would disagree that this is in violation of the Brown Act. In fact, it complies with the Brown Act.
I think the confusion might be that someone is trying to click on what says special board meeting, and that link is grayed out, but the July 28th agenda only and July 28th, 2022 agenda packet is available on the website. So if someone stopped at special board meeting, just trying to click that, they would not be able to click anything. However, if they recognize that this board meeting is taking place on July 28th, 2022, they should be able to click the item. I just did.
Yeah, that item is just underneath that special. Yeah, it's there, clear.
Yep. Does that make that clear that up for you, Ms. Steinbrenner?
No, it doesn't. I have tried clicking. It says view, see the links below. The only link available is July 2022 board meetings. I click on that and nothing comes up. It's a circular screen that brings me back to see links below. No, it doesn't work for me.
Well,
And I've tried a number of times, including just now.
Yeah, it sounds like it's a browser compatibility issue.
Well, if it's happening for me, it's happening for other people too,
Potentially.
potentially.
Is there anyone
Okay.
else online right now that has the same issue?
Chair, do you want me
I
to-
don't-
Go ahead, Ms. Danito.
Yeah, I was going to say, I don't have that issue, and I received an email specifically from the Branson 40 Fire District or like last Friday or something, alerting me to the meeting with a link and a password. So the information was sent out in a timely fashion. So I will commend the Branson 40 Fire Department for doing that. I had no problem
Joe, are you
in
there?
the meeting on what was. But my other question is, in previous meetings, there's been kind of a, cocktail napkin, kind of speculation on how much it would cost. There are 700 residents in Branson 40 Fire Department. It would cost $2 million, so figure about $1,300 per parcel. But we already pay $500 for Happy Valley Fire District in our property taxes. I saw that. Look, Nate, I'll show you my property. It was a special vote several years ago. George Purnell was really instrumental in getting that through. But we here in Happy Valley, we already pay an additional $500 on our property taxes. If we merge with Scotts Valley, when we merge, will that $500 go away? if we choose to not, only my only question.
Chair O'Connell, I will note that when we look at reorganizations, we look at existing revenue streams as well as existing expenditures, and that gets transferred over to the successor agency, in this case, Scotts Valley Fire. That being said, that type of question that Ms. Adams mentioned is exactly what we need to address as we move forward with the reorganization. Is let's look at the existing benefit assessments. Are they going to continue post reorganization, or is it going to change? That's something that the three parties, meaning Branson 40, Scotts Valley Fire, and LAFCO, will determine. So that's a good question, and a question that needs to be answered. As of right now, the districts need to coordinate and make a decision on that, and that hasn't been done yet because we're still at the preliminary stage of the reorganization process.
Would Scotts Valley take over the ownership of the Branson 40 Fire Department parcel?
Yes, they would.
Chairman O'Connell, I'm back. Sorry, I was having connection issues. But I did want to make a final statement, if you can believe that.
Okay, a final statement.
You are going to hold me to it, though. All right, so I was talking about Plan B, and I was talking about transparency. I don't think we have enough, like that lady was just asking about. It's an obvious question. And what Myers just said, those are obvious things that should have been introduced in a flyer, a very comprehensive flyer a while ago, like pros and cons, before we start throwing $50,000 at this. And like I said, let the horse out of the barn. Now, you know, I just want to make a closing statement. I mean, there's so much to this. Our previous interim chief was starting to get a wildland firefighters. We had 11 applicants. We put that on hold. I had to argue to keep it on hold. We had public saying that wildland firefighters supposedly at Plan B would be a self-funding wireland, headquarters in Branson 40. Now, what are everybody afraid of? We're afraid of wildfires, right? I mean, I think it would be a great thing to talk about openly and to dig into a little more ahead of all of this process that's going too fast. Now, I will just say, basically in closing, I basically have felt a little in the dark. I mean, I'm a director and I feel like I'm in the dark. I'm not part of the ad hoc group. Of course, we can only have, there's 3 different government agencies here. We have Joe. I appreciate it. But really, why don't we have somebody from speaking out and like maybe explaining things a little? Where is he? That's the 3rd group. Anyway, this ad hoc group we formed a while ago. I'm not on it, so I'm not privy to that. We had a slight report. I appreciate that. I thought we were going to get some meeting minutes also out of the citizens group, but they haven't met in 2 months, which I found out in our last meeting. And also was told that they probably know more than I do. Hey, maybe they do. That's why I'm speaking out like this. I don't think they do. I mean, that last question about, is the station going to be sold? Is it going to go into, who's going to own it after this? Well, obviously, Scotts Valley's, they're going to get $1 million budget from Branson 40 Fire, and they're going to get the station and all the equipment, blah, 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 blah. They get everything. So that's how it works out, just for the information wise. But the ad hoc groups, the board meetings, I don't think they've been advertised well enough at this critical juncture. My hopes is that the public will speak out more on this matter if they knew. I talked to my neighbors, boy, when I threw that $1,500 at them, or $1,000 even. They couldn't believe it. And my neighbors are very open-minded people. So I think we should mail a flyer out, like I said, with both the pros and cons right now before we do anything else. I think we're ahead of ourselves on this. It's been my consistent opinion that this resolution to approve this large fire tax only on Happy Valley homeowners is not fair. Not to mention that if we can just delay it here or just vote it down, you know, I'm voting it down. That's $50,000 we still have in our coffers. The benefit assessment tax is a very complex issue. It has not been talked about, and except for tonight. And I talked about it mostly, but Becky did too. But all these measures are costly. You know, we're going to have a special. It sounds like we're having a special. If this goes through, there's some kind of a special ballot. I think that's costly. We haven't talked about that. We need more Plan Bs up front. We generally have to show more overall transparency. The LAFCO state requirements that 2 salary firefighters are on duty 24/7 is basically the only catalyst for this whole pending merger. Scotts Valley, we've been talking for them how many years, Pat? It's been my contention that Branch 40 Services using the hybrid salary volunteer support configuration has previously been accepted to most of our covered community, and our financial stability has improved since Measure T especially. So all I want to say is I don't know if our previous resolution agreement where Branch 40 was held liable, only Branch 40 Fire District is held liable for costs for any default in a successful annexation. Now, you know, that isn't word for word from the document, but I certainly would like to hear directly from our attorney on just exactly how far have we put our foot in the mud on signing that first resolution. I think we got ahead of ourselves there too. So you can see I have a lot of questions, but I'm finished for now. Thank you.
Thank you.
Director
Okay,
O'Connell, can we move for a vote?
not all of the board members have had a chance
Okay.
to say anything. And Tim and Pete have not spoken.
I'll quick speak that I'm in favor of this measure. I believe it provides us the data that we need to take next steps. That proverbial barn door was opened up quite a while ago, and we continue to deal with what comes next. And for me, one of the key ways we can determine what comes next is to handle this benefit assessment process and get this data in hand. I am voting yes for this measure. That concludes my comments.
Thank you, Tim. Director Veneris, do you wish to speak?
Yes, I do. I do have a few more comments to make and questions. It definitely seems like some of the board members have been rolling the out of the loop with data. I think the postcards should definitely be sent out to all the, I brought that up last at our regular meeting, and that should definitely go ahead. If I read correctly, this proposal is good for 120 days, so it's not necessarily dead tonight if it doesn't pass. Just to clarify that, unless it's 120 days is inaccurate. It is then, okay. You know, things like I was definitely weighed in on, in our area, we do have a lot of retired folks. And you know, I definitely have a concern about elderly retired folks and how the financial burden of this. So there's definitely more data. And I realize that special assessment is going to give a lot of data, but I think there's a lot more that that could be put out to the board for all this. Like, well, once we put this in all the way through to an election, and where does everything fit in between that? Because it sounds like they're set up to write the measure and put it on the ballot. So that's a question I'd like to have answered. I mean,
I can answer that for you, Pete.
okay. Is
So-
it going? Oh, go ahead.
So what they said was that at any point we can stop the survey or the benefit assessment process. And we only have to pay for the work they've done. This isn't, we're gonna have to pay everything right now. They'll do the assessment, and if we get numbers back or we're not happy or we disagree, then we can cancel it and just pay them for the work they've done and we can move on.
We still pay for the entire assessment though?
No, we only pay for the work that's been done.
What good would that do?
That's,
Question.
That wasn't really my concern, is backing out of it at some point before the assessment is completed. Now, my concern is once they complete it, is there ample time? Will the board, the board should get discretion to vote on things or move forward or not. And that was not clear in, at least when I was reading through, wasn't clear if once it's started, do they go all the way through and complete it to putting it on the election? That was my concern.
no.
Okay.
The board of directors will have a vote and will review the report as it goes and proceed however the board decides to proceed.
Do you know if it has been, well, I don't know. Do you know if it's going to be a simple majority or a super majority?
I don't know.
I had another comment, following up on what Pete was saying. I would like to, for transparency's sake and in an open forum here, that we only have 17 participants, it looks like, including us, that we do not have enough people that live in Happy Valley to know even what we know right now. And I don't think we know that much, because Nate just said he didn't even know, we don't know a lot. I would propose we should have a comprehensive flyer letter mailed to everyone with the facts that we know right now and how this is going to affect them. And I mean all effects, not just to push it through, but also the facts, all the options. I'm just talking options tonight. That's all I'm interested in. Options. It seems like we don't. It's not a clear picture. I know for a fact I had conversations with 3 of my neighbors. They were completely shocked. And 2 of them are on fixed income. So we're going too fast here. And that's my, I'm finished.
I don't want to be argumentative, but how are we going to put out this information to residents and not confuse them unless we gather all of the facts that help us make good decisions? Again, this is just information gathering, but we're paying for information gathering, so it comes from a third party, or in this case, a fourth party. It's not LAFCO, it's not Scotts Valley, and it's not Branson Forty. It's a fourth party that comes in and does this assessment so we can provide your neighbors exactly what you're talking about, Dick.
No,
This is the way we do that.
that's
You
not
gather
exactly true.
information, you put together the picture, you put it on a postcard, and then you put it out. After we decide how do we want to proceed? What do these numbers tell us? And then we want to hear what your neighbor has to say to us when we're
It's too
able to
late.
inform them fully.
It's too late by then.
No,
It's
it's not too late.
It's not too late.
It's too late because all of a sudden they'll get the number, and I'm saying give them a preliminary number now. But
You
but
did.
then but
You
then
did, Dick. You gave
but
them a
then
preliminary
the
number.
process the process starts, right, officially, and the ballot is put up. The ballot will go to a vote, and believe me, we're gonna have an awful lot of shocked people, Director Dobbs, a lot of shocked people if we vote this through tonight and we all of a sudden surprise them with this ballot measure. They'll open it up and they will have they'll have a bird.
That would
Okay.
be the ballot measure we're already $50,000 into.
So
Right.
your Director Dodds is correct. we have time to do this. This is the time to start. We're gathering information. We've got this schedule here that they're showing. We've got September, they're doing the analysis, planning, engineering, and we have time because we're going to build in the time when we have the correct information to have public meetings, public discourse, postcards, mailings. We're already all over that. We're getting ready to do those things. And community outreach really is February, March, April of.
What?
So
The
if you look,
the vote is scheduled for January, February, I thought, on your
no, it
schedule.
isn't. It's May and June. You got to look at your
Wait.
board packet.
Wait, I'm looking at it. It says community outreach. Let me see, mail-in ballot election, January, February 2023.
Well, no,
That's 7 months away. That's 7 months away. Everybody be shocked. If we vote this through and the SCI comes up with it, we know what they're going to come up with. We all know this. We're hiding it. We're hiding what this is going to do to all the retirees and everything. And you guys are going to be responsible if you push this through. You're going to be personally responsible.
Wow, that kind of language just isn't really called for here. That kind of, come on, man.
We're at a point. We're at an inflection point. This is an inflection point. Once this goes through, then we have met legal obligations to make a ballot, to put it on a ballot. So it's going to be an incredible sales job to get it passed. But I fear with the benefit assessment tricks that they have up their sleeve, that they will push it down our throats. And there's a lot of evidence for that. Becky was talking about it. It happened with her situation.
He's right. Look at page 4 of your agenda packet. The schedule is much different.
Chair, I will note that there's this discrepancy or misconception that if the board approves this agreement with CSI tonight or SCI tonight, that the residents are going to be in the dark until they get a ballot measure in the mail 7 months from now or whatever. And that's incorrect. This is allowing SCI to begin the analysis. And at the same time, parallel, Grants of 40 Fire, Scotts Valley Fire, and LAFCO are working on having community outreach efforts, having community workshops. This is beyond just having these board meetings. The residents have the right to come to these board meetings if they choose to. In addition to the board meetings, we're going to have community workshops, and we're going to talk about the benefits for the reorganization, the reason why we're doing the reorganization. And then once we get closer to the benefit assessment, assuming that the study is complete and the board wants to move forward with the actual mail-in ballot, then we're going to focus on workshops just about the benefit assessment. So there is a lot of opportunities for the residents to get the information and opportunities to voice their concerns and their questions as we move forward with this reorganization process. Now, it is up to the board if they want to move forward with hiring SCI. And I think at this point, you should take action. And if not, if you vote no on this agreement, we're still going to work together to complete this reorganization. And we're going to still provide community workshops, and we're going to discuss the reasons why there's not going to be a benefits study. We're going to have those discussions, but it's up to the board to decide what they want to do. And board member Lannon's correct. You are at a crossroads right now, and you need to decide, are we going to move forward with this study or not? And I think at this point, I would encourage the board to just consider taking action.
Okay.
Joe, I had a question. This is Landon. You were talking kind of fast there. You kind of indicated, I appreciate everything you said, Joe, very much. You kind of indicated that if this was to pass and we have starting all this outreach, we tried some outreach and didn't go too well. And I'm not sure what details we've even given them about. People were just saying, oh, the station's going away. But you said at one point, Joe, in your very quickly there, I just want to clarify, you said something about they would, the outreach and all this that's going to happen between now and a ballot measure, an official ballot measure, that the community can stop the ballot measure?
The community will take action on the ballot measure. They'll vote on that ballot
Oh,
measure
no,
once it's
okay.
made.
All right, I just
don't-
wanted to clarify that. I got it.
But
Okay,
I agree with you that there needs to be transparency and there needs to be outreach. And today's discussion is just a series of discussions we're going to have about the benefit assessment and the reorganization.
so I'm just curious, in the ad hoc groups, anybody answer this? Have you talked about all these things in our meeting tonight in even this granularity? I mean, can I hear you say that, Joe, or Pat, or Tim?
I'll chime in. So the ad hoc committee has been talking about, we need to conduct community workshops. We need to let the residents know about
Agreed.
the reorganization process. They need more information. Now, the question is, we need to make sure that we're all on the same page with the information providing, because what we don't want is for information to be circulated and then Branson 40 says, wait, we don't agree with that data, or Scotts Valley Fire says, we don't agree with that. We need to be consistent with the data. So right now, we've formulated a matrix or a summary of the reorganization, but we are waiting to see whether or not the Branson 40 Fire Protection District is going to move forward with this study. And depending on the action tonight, we'll be able to finalize that summary, and then we can start moving forward. Right now, we're pending on the decision of the board here regarding the study.
Yes, yes.
Okay. It's time to call, Nate, could you call for a motion?
Somebody want to make a motion to approve the contract?
I'll make a motion that we approve the benefit assessment study with SCI Consulting Group.
Do we have a second? I'll second it. Okay, we have a motion and seconded. So let's take a roll call vote.
You're muted.
Director O'Connell,
Aye.
Director Dodds,
Aye.
Director Vanris.
Nay.
Director Meyer,
Nay.
Director Landon.
Nay.
All votes are in. 3 votes for, 2 votes against.
3 votes for, 2 votes against. The measure passes.
What?
Motion passes.
Good night.
Good night. Thank you. Meeting is adjourned.
Wait a minute, I asked to be able to speak. This is Becky Steinbruner. I was not allowed to speak during public comment.
Before, hold on. Nate, did you get the tally correct?
Did you vote yay or nay?
I voted nay.
Oh, okay, never mind. I apologize. I heard nay or nay. So the measure does not pass.
Hello? Hello? Is there anyone still online?
It's if you'd like to allow Ms. Becky to provide comments under oral communications, you may choose to.
Okay.
Go ahead, Ms.
I would like to comment on one of Becky's earlier comments in that there was a SCI had a bad reputation or something, but found that far from what research, talking to people who've had them. So it's very disappointing to have this vote. But you want to address Becky?
Thank you. First of all, can I clarify the measure, the motion to have SCI do this work did or did not pass? That was confusing.
Not pass. There was 2 votes in favor and 3 in opposition. So the
Okay.
agreement
All right.
was not approved.
All right. Thank you. That was very confusing. Well, let me say what happened with SCI was that the information did keep changing. The formula that they used for how much certain parcels would be addressed kept changing. And people who were affected by that kept asking for information, never got the information. The people handling the county fire couldn't answer anything, and the information kept changing. And I'm telling you that because it's important. It was not accurate. And the whole issue of the appeal process available to people was not and continues not to be transparent or clear at all. So I just want to warn you about that. That's all I'm saying, based on the experiences that I had with SCI during the CSA 48 special benefit assessment. Now, I appreciate your giving me the opportunity to speak on something not on the agenda, because I tried and couldn't get in before. And again, you have no codes, *9 to raise your hand, *6. I only know that and guessed because I attend meetings like this, but it's not on your agenda. It's not on your website. It's not clear to people at all how they participate. So what I wanted to bring to your board's attention that is not on your agenda tonight is next Wednesday, the LAFCO will be meeting, and they're going to be talking about the consolidation process between that involves CSA 48 and CSA 4. They are looking at hiring a company to do a fiscal feasibility study, and you might be very interested in listening in on that. You can go to the Santa Cruz County LAFCO website. It's excellent, very user-friendly, and you can find that information about the feasibility report for consolidation of CSA 48 and other affected areas. The second thing I want to tell you about is a program that I believe it's San Mateo County, maybe Marin, has called Fire Forge. And it is a program that is funded up in that area. They are training firefighters, medics to bring them up so that we have people. Encourage the youth to go into these professions. And I encourage you to look up FIRE, all in caps, and it's an acronym, Forge. And I believe it is either San Mateo or Marin County. It's the first year they're getting this off the ground. It's going very well. They're going out as part of these people's training. They're going out and doing fire defensible space projects for people, free or very low cost. This is the model that your former interim chief also wanted to support with volunteers, and that is going to be happening in the state. So please look at that information. Thank you very much.
Chair, since we allowed Ms. Becky to speak, I also see a hand raised from another member of the public. Do you mind them giving an opportunity to speak to the board?
Sure.
Ms. Maryland, you've been asked to be unmuted.
Yes, I would like to ask the members of the board who voted against this assessment if they realize that since Browns 40 Fire Protection District does not have the funds currently to operate with safe number of personnel going forward unless we take a vote to see if people in the district are willing to vote extra money. How do they see this proceeding? Essentially, we cannot have a vote of the district without data. You have now voted not to give an assessment to gather the data. So essentially, if the district has no information to vote on and we do not have the money to operate, I believe you have just killed the district. Is that correct?
No, that's not correct at all. I don't know what you're getting at there. I'm sorry, Marilyn. I disagree with you wholeheartedly. I want to give the district as much information as possible now before they do, before they find out that the special benefits assessment will force our retirees. I made my arguments, all the points. We can send out right now a mailer. We can let them know, we know where we are financially right now. We kind of know. I mean, we just hired, we just hired 3 more full-time, was it 2 or? We're paying that salary. We're not in a position we were in 2016. We are far from it. And the other thing is we kind of have an idea of, because we had a meeting 6 months ago, and Joe, I think it was Joe was there, and so was Scotts Valley chief, and they came and they were throwing numbers out at the Scotts Valley chief to keep the station open. And I think the bidding went to about 1,200 before he said, well, the board would consider that, you know. So we kind of know where we are, and but I'll tell you one thing. My 3 neighbors I talked to, they had no idea, and they were shocked at the increase. And the whole picture of what's going on, we need to explain it up front. I don't want to push this through now and then all of a sudden explain it later when it's just like going to ballot. And then I don't trust the benefits tax analysis, the formula. Like what did Becky just said? She said there was issues with the formula. Now, the weighting floor formula of who gets to pass this and who doesn't. And then there was an appeals process she mentioned that was bogus, or the residents didn't have any answers. So this meeting she mentioned, I would recommend you go to, and I'm going to look into it. I want to hear what happened in CSA 48 and 4, I think she mentioned. So that's why I'm arguing this way, Marilyn. I don't think you can blanketly say we can't do anything now, or we've killed the district. I disagree. Sorry.
And sure, I'll just chime in on Miss Marilyn's comment. The fact that the board is not going to have a study means that there is no proposed benefit assessment to consider, which means that the residents will not vote on keeping the fire station operation. So now moving forward, we're going to provide the residents information about the reorganization process, and we'll inform them that because the fire station is understaffed and underfunded, it has to be transitioned to something else, whether it's a storage facility or a community center. It's going to be something, but it's not going to be operating with firefighters because there's no money. And I think that's what Ms. Marilyn was leading, is that without the assessment, having the fire station operation is no longer an option because there's no funding. But with that, LAFCO will continue working with Grants of 40 and Scotts Valley Fire with the reorganization. Now we have direction that there's not going to be an assessment, so we'll update the schedule accordingly, and we'll continue moving forward.
I have one comment for that. Killing the district, that's kind of strong language, I would say. And just because it was voted down today, this proposal is good for 120 days. That doesn't mean it won't come back up. At least as far as I can see. I don't know why everybody says that it is not. So perhaps, well, need to go back to the drawing board. That's how I would put it. Why did the 3 board members vote against it? So back to the drawing board, I would say.
This is Director Landon. I would strongly recommend one of my ideas. I haven't heard anybody else's, but I mean, specifically, I mean, there might be something I'm not privy to, but Plan B, there was 2 ideas that, you know, I brought up one about and Becky reiterated it about, you know, a wildland fire headquarters of some sort, which I'm sure the residents are here would really appreciate if that could be coordinated with Lavco and Scotts Valley, et cetera, et cetera. And also, what about the idea of spreading the pain a little bit? I mean, seriously, the times for the station to cover from Scotts Valley is the same in both areas right now, but they pay 0, and then we potentially pay $1,700 a parcel. I mean, what is fair here? We have to be fair, and believe me, that the point of fairness is the most important point to me. Is what's fair and equitable. We can. I mean, yes. I mean, the firefighters, when we get them out here, they're going to be what, 30, 50% more expensive. So we need to pass all this cost, and I'm kind of disagree with Joe the way he talks about like we're insolvency. You know, long term we can't run the station. We're doing it right.
Board Member Landon, you're correct. This district is insolvent. It's not going to be able to. It's not sustainable. You're drawing down from your reserves as we speak, and you have a temporary fire chief, and you don't have admin staff to do any of analysis on the options that you're talking about. And the only alternative to do analysis was to hire an outside consultant, and that was voted down.
Joe, we had a hybrid system that was working pretty good. I mean, COVID hit, we lost a lot of, we had a lot. I mean, we were up to 15 or more volunteers. COVID hit, and that really affected our hybrid system. Now, it doesn't mean we can't have one extra guy that I think our budget could take that. You sound like we're in such dire straits, but I mean, we're doing it right now.
The reality is the district is in dire straits, and that's why LAFCO had to come in and provide assistance. That's the reality. That's why this reorganization is happening, because Branson 40 Fire can no longer operate.
It was, I understand, Joe. You're enforcing your will and the state's will. That is what's going on. Let's be honest. You are saying that we cannot protect our people out here. All the, you know, because, you know, somebody isn't waving to back up a truck. We don't have 2 guys. We have to wait 5 minutes for some assistance from Scotts Valley. I disagree with the premise that the state is going to say, oh, you are insolvent because now you don't work. And it's like saying we never worked. It never worked. I disagree.
We can continue having this discussion. I know we're past the agenda item. LAFCO is not here to force anything. On the contrary, I'm here to provide assistance because I didn't want this district to fail. And so I'll continue providing assistance. But at this point, because we're having a longer discussion, I think we should agendize this item for your next board meeting and just end it from here.
Agreed.
I think we should agendize it for next meeting, and we're beating a dead horse right now, but I think that we are in dire straits and we can't afford. We looked at all the numbers. We can't continue for 2 years. We won't be able to continue. So, and I think that's part of the fact that we've already told the board and we've already discussed. So we're going to have to review all those things over again. So I'd like to ask for if there's a motion to adjourn the meeting.
I'll make a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Do we have a second?
Director Dodds seconds.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Meeting adjourned.
Aye.
Aye. Meeting adjourned at 6:25.